What's up YouTube? My name is Caden and you're watching Gas It Garage. In today's video, I'm going to be starting to build the rear end of the Yerf Dog. I got the axle in from Go Power Sports, and today I'm going to be mounting it and also starting to build the engine mount. Alright, so we have our axle. I got this from GoPowersports.com, and it is a 44-inch axle to span the whole width of the rear of this go-kart. And what this thing is going to do is it will act as the jack shaft and the pivot point for the trailing arms, because it's going to sit about right here, and I'm going to mount my main driven sprocket and drive sprockets for the trailing arms on this, and also the brake disc is going to be mounted on this as well. So first I need to, before I mount this, I need to cut these off and remove the master cylinder right there. So, I've got all these things cut off, but I got my axle hangers put together, and I had this sprocket from a previous engine that I had on this go-kart. I had a motorcycle engine on here, and this was on the jack shaft behind it. It never really worked out, but I kept the sprocket for something just like this. So, basically what I'm going to do is take this axle and mount it right there. I also removed all of the brakes, that whole mechanism. So now I have all the room I need to mount this thing and figure out where I'm going to have everything located at. I am going to put a third, possibly even a fourth axle hanger on here, and I was going to use this one off of the original axle here. It wasn't till after the fact, after I cut it out and everything, that I realized that that's a 1-inch axle, and this is probably some weird metric size, which is smaller than 1 inch, so this will not fit. Right now, I'm going to start on the engine mount and also mounting the axle. So I'm gonna set the camera up out here so I can start cutting the go-kart frame apart. So now that I have the roll cage cut off of the other go-kart, now I can start building the engine mounts. So I've already made a couple of measurements here and here for where I'm going to mount the outer two axle hangers on this for the height I need to clear this with this right here. I'm going to use probably these pieces right here. And I'm gonna take some measurements and make some cuts, and then I'm gonna start welding this thing together. Get this axle on here, get these mounted, and hopefully mock up the engine. Alright, so now that I have the axle welded in place, now I need to weld in these and these. But first I need to measure exactly where they're going to go, and then I can tack it in place and then see where these are going to go, because they're going to go something like this. Probably going to have to trim a little bit off. And they're going to go something like that, and the engine's going to sit here. Alright, so I have the axle mounted in, and I also have these cut out, and they're going to go on there just like that, and the engine's going to sit right in there on top of these. I do have to trim them down to get them as low as I possibly can to get as much clearance as I can for the engine. But I have this thing level, and it is solid and not going anywhere. It's late, so I'll see y'all in the morning. All right, guys, it's the next morning, and I'm gonna get started welding in these engine mounts here. I have to trim the ends off, so I'm gonna start with that, and then I'm gonna get these tacked in place, and then I can start building the engine mounts and getting the engine in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so I have these partially welded in. I'll finish welding them later, because right now I want to try and get the engine in. Alright, so I have the CVT taken off, and I realized that there's a little bit of play in it. So I might need to get new bearings, but it's probably still usable, hopefully. Now, getting this thing in here is going to be a little tricky because this thing is so heavy. This is a heavy engine. You gotta take the air filter off. Probably should have measured this first. This is why you measure things before you weld it in. I'll get it to fit. I just gotta cut that off real quick. All right, take two. I'll bend that out of the way. Looks like it's gonna just barely fit. Just barely. Okay, so I finally got this thing in here. I had to remove the torque converter, the air filter, and the muffler, and the fuel pump in order to get this thing in here. The air filter will fit back on there just fine. The muffler, I may have to relocate. I'm going to have to cut right there to clear that. for the throttle cable. And then I'm also going to figure out how I'm going to be able to mount the CVT on here, because right now the way the holes are drilled in the plate, it doesn't line up exactly for where I need it. So I'm going to have to re-drill the holes. But as for bracing, I'm going to have some pieces of tubing that will mount to here, and then they'll probably go up to that bar right there. So I have to take this engine out now so I can build the engine mounts and get the holes drilled and bolt this thing down. Okay, so I finally got this engine mounted in here. I did do some things off camera, like finishing welding in these engine mounts. I also had to make a little notch in there to clear that bolt. And then I cut the ends off of the engine mounts, and I also cut that out. All I have to do now is just finish bolting the engine down and re-drill the holes on the CVT so I can mount it at the angle I need. But that's probably going to be it for this video. In part 2, we are going to finish reinforcing the engine mounts and start building the trailing arms. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one.